So in this short video, I thought I'd show you how I go about painting a thing like this facade. Sorry, not so much a facade, but as an entrance to an indoor market. My name's Howard Jones, of Howard Jones Art, and I run live painting online tutorials on a regular basis, 2 per month. And if you have a look at my other videos, you get a taste of the type of thing that we do at these live tutorials. And if it's something that interests you, please do pop along, make yourself known. I can drop you an email with full details, though most of the details you will find on my website. If only to pop over and get yourself a copy of my free ebook download on Watercolor Turn Me Loose, best or top 10 tips sort of thing, and have a look at that. So let's tackle this week's challenge, my demonstration. So the first thing that strikes me, I'm placing, I mean, there's an potential issue that the focal point here is really going to have to be located inside the recess of the doorway, really, because it's going to be unavoidable. People will want to look through this lovely, rather grand doorway. And while I'm painting from the photograph, I will pick out only what I think are the sort of salient details, the salient points, the bits that interest me, because there's a lot of quite intricate glass work in here, which I certainly don't want to get embroiled in trying to copy. Just get the feel of the place and try and keep this within the... I've sort of set my timer here for 15 minutes. I've got a feeling this one might go beyond that, but we'll see. So I can make enough interest. There seems to be a light on inside somewhere. It's very diffused, this light, so I can't see a lot of the detail in the interior. So it has to be made up. But I'm more than happy with that task of having to make up things that the photo will not make clear to us. So the architectural stuff on the outside here, sort of, I'm not sure the correct term of these things. If they were interior, I'd probably call them dado rails, but these are probably called something else by those that know. They're sort of embellishments. They add a bit of relief to a flat surface of the building. Something like this. And off here we have a heavier lintel, sort of ledge, it seems. So I'm not going to make too much of that, just give it its basic inference. That should do us, I think. Okay, it's one of those photographs that first, when you first look at it and think, oh, this is very plain and simple, and then the more you study it, the more you see there is in the shape. Right, I think we'll leave the rest of this to the paint and brush, and I just want to get a generic warmish colour on the outside. Well, it'll start off warm and I'll probably cool it down. That was a bit of raw sienna with some ultramarine blue in it, but I sort of want it to have a little pinkiness about it, so I best put in some alizarin crimson. My colours are really contaminated from... I haven't washed my palette out, and I don't tend to do that unless I'm looking for a particular effect in my paintings. So my alizarin crimson, as you can probably see, is a little bit greyed down. So might need to bring in something a little brighter. So I'll pick up a bit of quinacridone gold, add that to the alizarin crimson. So if I need to get through this, I think I'm going to stop talking for a bit and just paint. Let's have some fresh alizarin crimson. I think that's my only answer there. That's better. Nice clean bit of paint, but I'll wash it through now. Some of this, of course, can live inside the shape. So I'd go from belly of the brush. All this is done off the belly of the brush, like this, nice, big and bold. And when I want to indicate something a little more linear and with a bit of finesse to it, I turn to the point of the brush, holding the brush back here just to give me some sort of you know, a degree of life to the brush work. Otherwise, I think if we hold the brush like a pen, there is that danger of your brush marks looking terribly tight. I don't mind this drifting in here, and if there's anywhere else I think that little bit of warmish colour appears, I'll go in places. I always think that you're better off, if you're afraid of using bright colours, just go in bold with them. Unless you're purposely out to make which I do a lot myself, a more monochromatic, a more sort of neutral based colour painting, then if it's colour you want, then don't mess about. Just go in with the colour, because if you overdo it, perhaps I just did that deliberately so you could see what I'm doing. If you overdo it, you can always wash it through. You can't go the other way. You can't be tentative about colour and think, well, I'll start off with something a little bit greyer because I'm a bit scared of bright colours. You can't then turn those muted colours back to something bright. You'll get a degree of that working for you if the greys that you've got on your painting already are weak. Then you can sort of almost put neat paint straight from the tube out, and you will then achieve a modicum of brightness back in your painting. But my advice would be to steer clear of starting off tentatively for bright colours. Just go in with the bright colours. You can always modify them and sully them down, just reduce their chromatic strength. So again, the texture on these sort of walls is very subtle, and this is why I don't like sometimes working from photographs. I'm not the greatest photographer. A lot of my lights, and I find this with most people's photography, only the best of photographers know what to do in this situation, but it's all about the ISO settings and the shutter speed and things like this, but all the lights are really bleached out. There is more relief on this wall than the photo allows you to see. Similarly with the darks, if you were there in real life, you'd be able to see into that gloom and your eyes would eventually become accustomed to seeing the details in there. But the flatness of the photograph doesn't allow you to do that. So you have to once again sort of go on your personal knowledge of these places and these scenes. So just going to go across that foreground, which in the photo is a much greyer looking area. So perhaps just for that area for the moment I will go a little more grey. So I've added a little bit more blue in there. And then up into the walls here like this. And I'm probably going to dry it out fairly soon. I'm definitely going to go over my 15-minute timer. So I'll speed dry this now that I've got that main wash down. And then going back to a largish brush, or a smaller than the one I was using a moment ago, but I'll try to get this interior in now. Let's say there seemed to be a light in there, so if I put a nice bright bit of paint there for a moment, quite sticky, rich paint, and then work around that. So this is a colour called Vermilion, very similar to Cadmium Scarlet. And this is mostly dry brush, at least it was a moment ago. I just thought I'd bring in something a little bit more fluid. And then into the door that we can see down here. Okay, well, I think we'll have to let some of that dry off now before I do anything else. Just lift out something that might, some dullish sort of light. Something's catching the light in the recesses back there, so I'll just pull out that sort of slightly lighter colour. Whoop, and there's my reminder. Let's put another 15 minutes on my little clock here. So I'm sort of working on this very shadowed out glass area, very ornate, and I'm using alizarin crimson with some viridian green in the mix. If we just let that that's a sort of basic delivery sort of situation here, where I'm delivering the colour and tone of paint that I want in that sort of area, and in a moment that'll allow me to manipulate this a bit better, a bit more accurately. So noticed really I seem to have overlooked this little shape that's in the base there, and just I think we'll leave it like that for the moment. I'll turn my attention, there's colours here that'll have to be reeled in, what's the word? Yeah, reeled in, or whatever the saying is. reined in. That's the word I was looking for. But for the moment, we'll leave it like that. And then I'll turn my attention to some of this stuff up here. This. I always think it's best to exaggerate some shapes. Just deliver some paint here, because I don't want to be painting you know, these ridiculously busy patterns that we're seeing. So I'll just deliver paint and give the areas a little bit of texture. A little bit of cooler blue in those things there. They seem to look something like that. And then, okay, up here, it strikes me as there being, as there often is in these old buildings, of course, some green lichen and natural algae that cling to these old stone surfaces. Again, it's a great place to exercise your texture making skills. And need to flood some of these areas with a bit of extra water and paint. There's a very, again, ornate bit of design in the wall up here. Right, let's see if we can finish this. And I'll probably speed dry this. Speed dry this, and then after I've speed dried it, I can play around a little bit more with other areas. Right, let's create this depth in the interior. Ultramarine blue. Alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, with a bias towards the ultramarine blue. I see a lot of geometric shapes in this interior, so this is why I'm using a flat brush instead of a round brush now. And I'm going to have to probably speed dry this again in a moment. Sort of quite a bit of dry brush technique mixed now in this brush, so very little water. Okay, so let's speed dry once more. So sticking with the flat brush, I'm going to mix up a shadow mix, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and I'm going to bring shadow right across here. Just thinking of the buildings on the opposite side of the road. Now I'm going to go into this interior. Like this. Definitely some darker shadow in here. As I say, maybe some reflected light bouncing up off the ground here. Just finding the right balance between what looks right and what looks and not doing that one extra brush mark that makes the whole thing look a rather contrived affair. So just mainly shadow out here, leaving us a nice bit of light bouncing up off the other areas down here. And there we are. And there's areas like this sometimes that I just want to declutter. I'll just take an old brush like this and add a bit more sort of stucco, I think it's called, isn't it? That sort of texture to these sort of plaster surfaces. Let's put them out round it and see how that is. I think I've got about 1 minute left on my timer clock. So thanks for sticking with it, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon, and if you want immediate notification of as and when I upload a new video. And thanks for your company, and hope to have your company again.